Punjab government has withdrawn the order on hike in minimum wages for labourers in the state, citing economic crisis because of the pandemic. The state has now announced a minimum wages hike in an order on the 1st of May. These are breaking inputs here coming in with the Punjab government now withdrawing this order of the hike. This is minimum wages for the labourers in the state. The government has cited economic crisis because of which this hike will not be possible. The state government had announced minimum wages hike in an order which was dated the 1st of May. And now the government says it has withdrawn it because it is unaffordable on the state. This is big breaking inputs here that is coming in. Yet another hit as far as minimum wages for labourers here is concerned. That will not be hiked. They will not be able to see the benefits of that hike because now it has been withdrawn by the Punjab government. This was an order that came in on the 1st of May. You are with the big story here. I'm Seher Zama. Let's make a start with top focus coming in of Prime Minister to hold yet another meeting with Chief Ministers. This is via video conference this afternoon, and it is to discuss the next step in the centre's lockdown strategy. The focus of this meeting here being on increasing economic activities. This is across states. This is on tackling the pandemic in the containment zones as well, but also to start economic activities on a bare minimum. The discussion on the disruption of supply chain, availability of labour is also set to be on the agenda. Remember, this is a meeting which is to go on through the day, starting this afternoon. Unlike the last time, where only 9 chief ministers got to speak, this time around the session is going to be held in 2 sessions, which is to start in the afternoon, last till late in the night here, for all chief ministers having a one-on-one with the Prime Minister. Our correspondent Ayushman is getting us those inputs here on the agenda of the meeting and also in what works post this meeting. Ayushman, this is the third such meeting here to take place. What have been the deliverables of what we've seen in the past of these meetings, this one-on-one interactions of chief ministers with the Prime Minister?
If you see currently, sir, this is the meeting that is taking place between the chief ministers and the Prime Minister via video conferencing, and through the lockdown, be it the extension or the strategy, or the Prime Minister has interacted over the period of time with the chief ministers in order to assess the situation all across the country, in particular to the states. Currently, we are witnessing that around 10 states are there in the country where the caseload is high, and we have actually 20 districts where the additional teams have been deployed by the center for monitoring the cases. So definitely the economic activities will be one of the core agenda for discussion. Also, what will be the way through after this, because we are merely 1 week more is there for the lockdown, and after that, what will be the roadmap for the industries, given the fact that we have seen a huge number of migration of labor. The industries, how will they operate? Also, the finances of the several states, they have been demanding money from the center, so that will also be something that will be talked upon. We have seen in past that several chief ministers have been given the opportunity to talk, and several it was said that if other chief ministers want, they can depute the chief secretaries, but this time it has been decided that every chief minister will participate in this meeting, and they'll be given the chance to talk, and they will be giving their brief to the Prime Minister. Most important would be the containment strategies in the red zone, because we have seen the resumption of activities in the green and orange zone. What will be the containment strategies? How will states go forward, and how can they seek the cooperation from center? That would be something very important to watch.
All right, Ayushman, many thanks for getting us those details. Let's also get our viewers further inputs. This is yet another set of fresh guidelines now that have come in from the Ministry of Health in revising their guidelines for home isolation. Patients who are showing very mild symptoms can end their home isolation after 17 days of the onset of symptoms. This isolation that can be ended if they experience no fever only for 10 days. Also, There is going to be no coronavirus testing, which is required on patients to end this home isolation. Earlier, the home isolation that could be ended only after a certificate, but now there is going to be no testing with no certificate on this as well by the surveillance medical officer declaring the patient free of coronavirus. Our correspondent Ayushman getting us those details here. Ayushman, given the fact that now there is going to be no certificate required, no testing required, is that a guarantee? If you showed no fever for 10 days, you're in the safe zone then?
Yes, sir. In fact, earlier only the health ministry had clarified that pre-symptomatic and mild symptoms patient can stay in their home, and there are a certain set of guidelines which needs to be followed. Right now, the clarification has come and it has been said that if there is no symptom and 17 days post the onset of symptoms and 10 days if the fever is not there, a person can discontinue the home isolation. This is the clarification which has been given from the health ministry, because earlier there was no clarification as to when the home quarantine can be discontinued. Now this has been the clarification from the Ministry of Homes, Ministry of Health, and importantly, sir, 2 days ago, the health ministry has clarified that mild and pre-symptomatic cases and also the moderate symptom type cases won't be having the confirmatory RT-PCR before they are discharged. Only for the severe cases, we will see that RT-PCR will be taking place from now onwards.
Okay, all right. Those more clarity that is coming on these new guidelines, which people should take note of. Ayushman, thank you for getting us those inputs. In Visakhapatnam, a gas leak tragedy that had taken place last week that killed 12 people on the 7th of May. Now, sources telling us police have summoned top officials of the company, the plant from where the gas leaked, which is LG Polymers, and this is for interrogation that needs to take place today. No arrests that have been made in the case yet, despite a case that has been registered against the company. But remember, the FIR that names no one particular person. This interrogation, which is to start today here, people have been demanding that the owners of LG Polymers be interrogated by the police and holding them accountable for this tragedy. Our correspondent Paul is getting us those inputs here. Paul, you had broken us details of what exactly the FIR mentions here in this case, since there are no particular names that have been taken in the FIR of LG Polymers. Who all within this company are going to be interrogated now?
Well, we are picking up from police sources that the top officials of LG Polymers have been summoned. They will have to come forward and they will have to explain what exactly went wrong. In fact, they were planning to do it 2 days earlier, but the LG Polymers officials had asked for some time because they were carrying out their own internal investigation. They were trying to find out what exactly went wrong. Was it human error? Was it an accident? Or was it just a cause that happened inside that LG Polymers factory? Because there were 2 tanks. The leak happened from one particular tank wherein styrene chemical in the gaseous state escaped from the chimneys. And what happened was almost 1,000 people were affected because of this. 10 villages in and around that particular area, RR Venkatapuram, had to be evacuated. The police were also confused because which hierarchy of employees would have to be held responsible was a question. That is when LG Polymers requested, saying, please give us some time so that we can carry out our own internal investigation, so that we will be able to answer the questions that would be put forward in the interrogation. In the meanwhile, what the police have done is they have spoken to the villagers, they've spoken to several people so that they get an angle about what exactly happened from their end. So various versions being taken into account. Today, the LG Polymers officials will have to explain what exactly went wrong. So we are assuming that they have completed their investigation. They have been tight-lipped about this particular investigation part of it, but they had only put out a statement saying they will look into the financial help that is required, the medical help, and also if in case there's a need for psychological help, then they would be helping the people who have been affected. Apart from that, today what we picked up is that LG Polymers officials have been summoned and they would have to answer several questions that are being raised by the Visakhapatnam police.
Well, many thanks for getting us those details here with this interrogation now, which is to start of members of the LG chemicals in the plant where this leak had taken place. We're now getting in further breaking inputs here. This is the new SOP for railways that has been released. The Ministry of Home Affairs issuing the new protocol for passengers, and this is to be followed for train travel. This comes a day after the centre announced 15 pairs of trains will start running from 12th May onwards. Remember, these are passengers trains on a bare minimum basis, which have now been allowed to run. This is going to start tomorrow onwards. As per this new protocol, the movement of trains that has been allowed in a graded manner. Only passengers with confirmed e-tickets will be allowed to board the train. No one's going to be allowed to gather in at the ticket booking counter. This is only for e-ticket bookings. Our correspondent Ayushman getting us those details here. Ayushman, does this effectively mean that you can board these trains only if you've booked online?
Yes, in fact, MHA has issued the SOP for movement of persons by train, and both if the train is moving, it would be permitted by in a graded manner in consultation with the Ministry of Health as well as the MHA, and the strict protocols are to be followed. And currently, it has been said that only those passengers with confirmed e-tickets shall be allowed to board the train, and the movement of passengers as well as driver of the vehicle transporting the passengers to and fro from the railway station will be allowed on the basis of confirmed e-tickets. And it is also said that all passengers will be compulsorily screened, and all those asymptomatic will be allowed to board or enter the station and board the train. And all the passengers will be provided with the hand sanitizer at the entry and exit points of at the stations and also in the coaches as well.
All right, those are the details here. Remember, it's important that you go through this new SOP. If you have remained stranded in one part of the country wanting to travel back home, the new SOPs that need to be followed here. One, that the booking that needs to be done online. All passengers must wear face masks. Passengers have to be compulsorily screened as well before they board the trains. Many thanks, Ayushman, for getting us those inputs.
Welcome back. Now, amid the pandemic, one of the main issues continues to remain the Great Indian Migrant Crisis. There are several instances that are emerging from across the country that continue to emerge of the kind of problems that the migrants are facing. In fact, along with that, instances of ruckus and violations that are being reported across the entire country as migrant workers attempt to head back to their home states. In fact, let's tell you the first instance that we're tracking in a bid to curb violations and stop migrants' accidents. The centre had ordered states to ensure that migrants do not resort to walking on railway tracks or on the roads. The letter by the Cabinet Secretary adds that in case migrants are found in such conditions, they should be counselled, taken to a nearby shelter and given food and water till their train or bus travel is facilitated. Meanwhile, Shramik special trains for migrant workers will now have up to 3 stops in the state where it will conclude its journey, and the trains will run in full capacity. Those, of course, are the details coming in as far as what the facilitation of the migrants who are on the roads and how they actually can get home. This is in a bid to curb violations and stop migrants' accidents. Centres ordered states to ensure that migrants do not resort to walking on the railway tracks or on roads. Now, this letter by the Cabinet Secretary adds that in case migrants are found in such conditions, they should be counselled, they're taken to a nearby shelter and given food and water until their train or bus travel, in fact, is facilitated. Meanwhile, Shramik special trains for migrant workers will now have up to 3 stops as well. Moving on, there's been a flip-flop by the Maharashtra state government when it comes to inter-district travel, that is travel within the state of Maharashtra. This is not solely related to migrants, but for all those stranded within Maharashtra. First, the state allowed inter-district travel by state buses, and then the decision was put on hold. However, migrants who are seen walking on the road will be picked up by buses and dropped at the Maharashtra border. Those, of course, are the details coming in as far as the Maharashtra government is in fact concerned. Meanwhile, as a result of this flip-flop, passengers were left clueless. There are visuals from Mumbai's Parel depot where people had gathered to board buses and then go back to their home as well in Konkan. But now, with the revised rule, they are left helpless. They demanded that the government should actually help them reach home. Mayuresh joining us for more details. Mayuresh, what can you tell us about this entire issue, this flip-flop by the Maharashtra government? Because there were very specific rules that were laid down about how the movement within the state will be facilitated, and on what basis has it been now pulled back?
Certainly, Amri, there were specific rules which Maharashtra state government had mentioned about the intra-state travel. But we have been given to understand that now they have changed the policy. First, what they are doing right now is that helping the migrants who have been stranded in the state to reach at the Maharashtra border. So whether if a person wants to go to the Indore, then state government is allowing him to get into the bus which will take him to the Maharashtra and MP border. But suddenly it has created a confusion because in today we saw that a lot of people who wanted to travel to Konkan and Western Maharashtra to their respective native places, they had gathered in a large number at Parel Depot, and they were having no clue about it that Maharashtra government has changed the order, and this scene was created just because Maharashtra government did that flip-flop at the last moment.
All right, Mayuresh, thanks so much for joining us with all of those details. Well, that's as far as Maharashtra is concerned, and people who want to travel within the state and how they will actually be able to do that. Meanwhile, let's move on to some other news. Jammu here, a day after the Indian Railways announced that 15 pairs of trains will run from May 12th. Jammu railway station authorities are reviewing arrangements for smooth travel. Barricades around railway stations have been removed to allow smoother movement of people. Pradeep Datta sends us this ground report. Take a look.
After 47 days of lockdown, finally you can see the gates here have been opened and people have been allowed to move inside. All these senior officials are going inside. Rails will be back on track from tomorrow, and you can see officials are going in. They're making all sorts of arrangements. From tomorrow onwards, the train will be coming over to this place. They are trying to ensure that each and every person coming over to this place will be properly screened and scanned. If somebody is tested positive, they will be sent to the isolation center in hospitals. And if somebody is tested negative, initially they will be gone for administrative quarantine period of 14 days. Idea is basically they do not want to take any chance, they do not want anybody to mingle. But this is a very significant decision that has been taken, because for the last 50 days we have seen there were concertina wire, nobody was allowed to move in. But now finally the concertina wire has been lifted, and you can see the gates have been shifted and police personnel are allowing people to go inside so that they have many of the queries. There are some of the passengers, it's kind of a ray of hope for them. Many of them had been stranded for the last so many days. They are waiting here for the counter to open so that they can move towards railway station. Let's speak to some of them. कहाँ से आप लोग आए हैं? अब अभी आप रेल के लिए इंतजार कर रहे हैं? जी। क्या बोला है आपको, रेल कब से शुरू हो रही है?
कल से सुना है 12 से।
तो कितनी देर से आप फंसे हुए थे यहाँ?
हम सुबह से हैं, हम 3 महीने से फंसे हुए हैं। तो कल हम आए यहाँ रात में, यहाँ आके मैंने सुबह वहाँ रात में वहाँ थे, सुबह यहाँ आके बैठे हैं।
बोला इन्होंने ऑनलाइन टिकट करो, लेकिन हमारे पास बड़ा फोन है ही नहीं, तो हम ऑनलाइन टिकट कैसे करेंगे? हमारे पास पास भी है।
हाँ। कोई बात नहीं, अभी आपको थोड़ी देर बाद छोड़ेंगे, बात हुई है। These people had come from West Bengal for the last 3 months. They got stuck up. You can see the senior officials are also going inside because all sorts of arrangements will be made for social distancing, and they will take all preventive measures once the passenger train will start moving. This is a ray of hope for many of these people who had been stranded for last several days.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned to Mirror Now.